Thanksgiving at my mother's house always looked warm from the outside. 14 people squeezed around an extended dining table. Plates too large for the space, laughter overlapping before dinner even began. My mother loved hosting because it gave her an audience. Every detail mattered: polished glasses, perfect food, successful children displayed like proof of good parenting. My older sister Lena arrived late, still wearing hospital scrubs under her coat. Everyone noticed immediately. "Our doctor finally made it," Uncle Rashid said, raising his hands dramatically. My mother glowed with pride. Mara had been there for hours already. She helped cook, set plates, refilled drinks, moving quietly between guests. She worked cleaning homes for a living, long days, physical work, early mornings. By the time dinner started, people were already handing her empty dishes without thinking. She accepted them automatically. I watched it happen the way I always did, noticing but saying nothing. Dinner went smoothly. Stories, jokes, familiar conversations about promotions, salaries, achievements. Lena answered questions about surgeries while Mara mostly smiled and listened. Then my mother stood for the first toast. "To my daughters," she said, lifting her glass. The room quieted instantly. "One is a doctor," she said proudly, nodding toward Lena. Applause followed. "And the other," she paused, smiling as if preparing a punchline, "keeps houses clean." Laughter spread across the table. Not cruel laughter. Comfortable laughter. The kind people allow themselves when they believe no real harm is being done. Mara smiled too. She even raised her glass. Conversation resumed within seconds. Plates passed. Someone complimented the turkey. The moment dissolved as if nothing important had happened. But I felt it settle heavily in the room. Another reminder of how worth was measured in our family. I told myself to let it go. I always did. Then, halfway through dinner, my mother stood again. She laughed before speaking, already amused. "You know," she said, raising her glass once more, "every family needs balance. One daughter saves lives," she turned toward Mara, "and one makes sure the floors shine." A few guests laughed again. That's when I spoke. "Mom." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't stand. The words simply stopped the room. She looked at me, surprised. "Yes." I kept my tone calm. "Why do you always praise Lena by comparing her to Mara?" The silence that followed felt different from before. Uncomfortable. Awake, my mother waved her hand lightly. "Oh please, it's just a joke." I nodded. "Maybe, but Mara is always the joke. No anger. Just truth placed carefully on the table." Forks paused. People avoided eye contact. For the first time, the laughter from earlier felt misplaced. Then my grandfather spoke. He rarely interrupted conversations anymore, but his voice carried across the room. "Cleaning houses is honest work," he said firmly. "There's dignity in that." He looked directly at my mother. "And she works harder than most people here." Something shifted instantly. Guests nodded. Someone murmured agreement. The social permission to laugh disappeared. My mother's smile faded, replaced by uncertainty. "I didn't mean anything bad," she said quietly. "I know," I replied, "but it still hurts." No one argued. Dinner resumed slowly. Conversation softer now. People began asking Mara real questions about her clients, her schedule, how demanding the work was, not sympathy. Interest. She looked confused by the attention. After dessert, the gathering ended earlier than usual. Goodbyes felt thoughtful instead of loud. In the kitchen, Mara automatically started washing dishes. I gently took one from her hands. "You can sit," I said. She hesitated. "I didn't want drama." "There wasn't drama," I told her. "Just honesty." Across the room, our mother watched us. She didn't apologize that night. But she didn't joke again either. In the months that followed, something subtle changed. At family dinners, people waited for Mara before starting meals. They asked for her opinions. They listened. No grand reconciliation happened, just a quiet correction. I realized later that dignity doesn't always return through confrontation or revenge. Sometimes it comes from refusing to laugh along, from one calm moment when silence finally ends, and once spoken aloud, some comparisons lose their power forever.